So guys, the time has finally come to have a look at this divergence indicator, which is a little bit limited, and in this session is actually going to be interesting because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all types of divergences, and also I would like to add the fact like who decides like who is the master. I'm gonna remind you now on how it works, and let's have a look. Okay. This is a live session, guys. You can see I'm already running into trouble here. Let's see what it doesn't like. Oh, master series. Okay. The IntelliSense here is not so strong, or I haven't yet maybe figured out how to properly use it, right? But I know what I missed. I'll tell you what I'm doing in a second. This should do the thing. Okay, you see, this is a bit of a problem for running this setup, right? Like in Visual Studio, this would have been done already, so I have to kind of close it. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't like it. Let me just do it in Visual Studio, then that'll be quicker. Basically, there's just one reference that needs to be added, but because I don't remember what it is, Visual Studio will just identify it automatically. So NC Divergence, here we are. Okay, and if I scroll down here, this is the automatically generated code. It takes ages to load. Okay, and you can see Visual Studio kind of makes suggestions right from the go. Okay, that's it, and that's the end of story. I'm not even remember. I think that's what it wanted it anyway. So it should compile fine now, and here we go. So I'm just going to remind you of a couple of things. We're using my pivot detection algorithm, which is looking at pivots. Okay, now what I've added now is something called master series. So the master series actually looks for a place, right, for a correct place to look the pivot, to find the pivot. Let me explain. So right now it's looking for pivots on price, and then it goes down to the indicator and compares what happens. So you can see this pivot here and this pivot here, and after it identified them, it went down, and we can see that this is actually going up. Not necessarily there will be a pivot here, but we don't have a choice really. We find pivot points here and we compare them to whatever price occurred here. Was it a price going up, down, or etc.? So we can see here that mark this place and this place, we can see that price is going up. Okay, and unfortunately in NinjaTrader you cannot draw on both panes. So right now, because this is the master, okay, you can see we're plotting the line here. Okay. However, the way I did it now is I actually added the inverse. Okay, but we'll see what that does in a second. Now let me just plot this for you. So we can see that right now is doing this, and this is doing this. Okay, and that is, according to this table here, okay, it's this bullish regular divergence. Bullish and regular, okay? Now next is the one on top, okay? And that one, let me just find a better example. So for instance, okay, let's have a look at this one. Maybe it's not a very good example. Okay, maybe this one. So here the price is going up, and here you can clearly see it's going down. So that probably is regular divergence up and regular divergence down. Okay, let's have a look at this other thing. Now I've added code that I can make the input the master. Let's see how that works out. Okay, so everything is gone. Okay, everything is gone. Everything is gone. Now we're gonna figure out why. Second, so first of all, for this case, these should not be really plotted on price pane. Okay, now I'll show you what I've done. So let's just we'll stick in Visual Studio for now, because that's just a bit more fun, a bit more convenient for this situation. I'm not going to be using AI just to do things. I can do manually much faster and have much more control. So what I added, right, was this here, master series, and essentially what it does, so identify pivots is pivot up. This is generic, right? So now find pivot algorithm. The previous code used to pass high series or low series here, Okay, now it's passing whatever is the master series. And in case if I select the input as my master series, okay, it passes the input. And this is just a generic method to find pivots. And we can already see that it is finding these pivots. Well, it looks finding them correctly, but offsets means that it plots them on the price pane. Like, I don't like this, okay, drawing diamond, but let's try something, okay, maybe it will work. I'm not sure. Set defaults, and here we can see there's this parameter called draw on price panel false. I'm just gonna try it. I'll set the conditions afterwards. I just want these to be plotted down here instead. Okay, that didn't work. Maybe I have to... Oh my god, of course it's not gonna work. This RSI is actually enabled. It's enabled by myself manually. Boy, I'm very slow today. Guys, drawing on a separate panel won't work, okay? Because obviously this indicator, the indicator works, like the input for it is here, okay? I put the RSI here manually, okay? This NC Divergence expert doesn't even know this is its input for it. It's just getting values from it, that's all. That's why we can't really plot anything here unless we want to hard code this RSI, but we don't want to hard code this RSI because we want to keep things generic. Let's have a look if the pivots are identified correctly. Well, it looks catching some pivots, okay. Looks right, okay. That looks fine to me. That looks fine to me. I think the reason why it's not drawing the lines is actually different now because obviously it's using identify divergence. So to draw lines, so there we go, display sections, plot connection line. Identify divergence, get secondary series. Okay, that's what I need to add now. So we have successfully passed the series there. Okay, now what we're gonna do, and this is something I wouldn't really trust AI with at all because the logic is pretty difficult, right? Secondary series here. Okay, I now want to pass it. So you see I'm using input here explicitly, all right? So pivot 1 and pivot 2, those are already in the pivots up series, in the pivots up list, right? Which I collected here and which I have made generic, right? So this list, find pivot algorithm, already returned, already collected the pivots. Oh, there we are again. This is also not good. Now let's see where... I thought I've removed it, so I'm passing the series here. Okay, that's another downside. Okay, identify pivots is pivot up. Okay, find pivot algorithm. I'm passing the correct series. I think here you should see should be generic. Okay, I don't think this is very generic. Pivot up, pivot down. All right, it shouldn't be like that. Anyway, let's see where so pivots down, add pivot. So this actually does not return the pivot. This only identifies that there is a pivot, and this method gets the pivot. So whilst identifying the pivot, well, let's see where it's used. Is it even used anywhere? Oh, this is the only usage. I guess it's pretty safe to just get rid of it then, okay? Because it's not used, okay, at all. That's good. It does. We don't care. So draw pivot up, draw pivot up. That stays, okay? And let's continue the next part. So get pivot. This is also now generic. When the pivot is identified, you can see the pivot value PV here is set. It's either the low or the high, or it's just the input value. So what I want to do now is identify divergence. And here, so this is already my master series values, but this is not. This should be secondary series. Input, secondary series, and let's kind of do that. Secondary series, and well, IntelliSense, not IntelliSense. That should do the thing. Plot divergence. What does that do? Okay, this plots the arrows. That's fine. Plot connection line, that's also fine, and display sections, that's also fine. So I think now this should work. Okay, it's not working, or there you go. So you see this is not good. The values it's taken is taken from the RSI, okay? And reason being is because when we plot divergence, so here's using the high, here's using the low, but plot connection line, let's see what that's using. For plot connection line, so start Y, that's fine. So you see it's using the pivot values, okay? And that's why it can't really do that with the connection line, can it? That's the problem. And to kind of go about it, well, we can just continue using the same stuff. Okay, we can just continue using the same stuff. So it was using the pivot. Okay. Let's go down to this method. The pivot value was either the low or the high of that particular pivot, right? So I'm just going to plot value. Okay, just so I don't get confused. Okay, because this is, so the plot value here is just gonna be high of the plot. Okay, and here it's just gonna be low. Okay, and it's not going to react to anything. So my pivot, and I'm just going to use, it's not going to react to the mode. Plot value equals plot value. Okay, that's fine. Now let's see where we have to change it. So it's plot connection string. Okay, plot value pivot 1. See, it goes by pivot value. Okay, let's go var pivot 1 plot v equals, just gonna do this, plot value. Okay, and for pivot 2 var pivot, you have to be very careful here so you don't get pivot 2 plot value equals plot value. Here we go. Pivot 2, we're just gonna put that, and for pivot 1, this is start y, this is start bars ago, this is end. Okay, I think there's one missing. So start bars ago, pivots down, pivot bar number, this is the value. Okay, this is the end y, and this is pivot 1. Okay, and we have to do the same here. Plot 1, pivot 1, plot value, and plot value for this one. Okay, and we're gonna put plot, so pivot 2. Okay, that should be fine. And pivot 1. I think now it's going to plot. Well, maybe, but it looks like there's a bug somewhere. So did I get an index out of range? I surprised. Where could things gone wrong? So plot value. It didn't really, let me pause this for a second. Now, obviously things went wrong here. You can see this is pivots up and this is pivots down. I pasted here. Obviously that's where things went pretty south. Okay, now, and like, so this is taking me 20 minutes. Okay, I think with AI, it's not where things get done faster. And you can see this is done now. Let's check. So it's, now we should look at this pivot as the master, okay, which is right here. And I'm just gonna grab a ruler, okay? And this pivot, okay? And you can see, I believe this is going up slightly and this is going down. This is going, so now the master is the indicator. So this is going up and this is going down. So that's gonna be a bearish signal, which I'm probably gonna get. Wonder where that API is. That's another problem. I don't see this API is always unavailable. So why is that? It's plotting the divergence. So divergence, maybe I'm just moving the mouse too fast or something. I don't know. So it's not here, which is okay. It's on the next bar. Is it? There we are, because it got 2 bars set for the hill size. Okay, so it's taking it to, you see this parameter here, hill size bars. It's actually set to 3 bars, right? So here's the pivot. 1, 2, 3. The 3rd bar closes. That's when it's identified, and then it's confirmed. This is a regular bearish divergence with the indicator taken as the master. So the indicator. Well, let's double check in another spot. Here the indicator's like, can't see how, so let's just see this. Okay, look at this, should be interesting. So here we are. This is definitely going up. The indicator is definitely going up here, and price is definitely going down in here. Okay, and we can see right here that's a -1. So it's a regular divergence bearish. This is fun, guys. Yep. Last but not least, so that was part of the game. Now we are in full control. We can control which series is actually more important. Is the price diverging with respect to the indicator, or the indicator diverging with respect to price? You can analyze it any way you like. Okay, let's find they're all bearish. Are there any bullish ones? It's kind of strange. Maybe that's just how things are, but I don't know. I would be quite surprised if that's always the case. Okay, that's another issue. Probably it's not really identifying any bearish ones. So let's just have a look at this one. You can see there are bearish ones, well, but it looks like not with the input, which is strange. So might as well just check that first. So I'm gonna pause this. So it's pretty obvious here we forgot to change the input to the secondary series. We're going to do that and do this. Now it's done. And we should also get some divergences, which are, have a look. There we are. So let's double check. So this price is definitely going up, and I can see that, by the way, are we looking at, so when the input is going to be RSI, so it's going to be the blue line, and we can see that the blue line here is really not going up. Okay, it's going down. So if we go back to our picture, so now the indicator is going down, that's the main, and this one is going up. It flipped around, which is pretty cool, I guess. Okay, master series, now it's price. So let's see if we can quickly add a few things. AI is great, but guys, I'm not gonna use AI, right, to do this kind of stuff, right? So I want to add divergence type, okay, and which is gonna be, what's it called, regular, hidden, okay? And like, why would you want to, probably maybe I could use AI to add this bit of naming, but it's, I don't know, it's gonna take me longer to write that prompt to do this now. So how long did that take me? Not too long. I wonder why it's, okay. It doesn't like divergence type right here. My divergence type, this should be fine. And let's go down. So the only place, identify pivots, that's all done. Identify divergence. This is what's identifying the divergence here and here. What we're gonna do is else, sorry. Now, okay, just to do this, if my divergence type equals regular, okay, this is what we're doing, all of this. So it's comparing the pivots, comparing the secondary. That's where this part is actually going to stay the same. There's no need really to, I think it's the only difference between this part and this part is the color, the number, well, the trues and false. So if I really wanted to, I could even like refactor this part and put in one method. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, put this here. Okay, sorry, not like that. I'm just going to do this. If, so I'm going to put here, bool divergence exists equals false. All right, and if divergence exists, I want to do the thing. Okay, now whether if it's regular, that's gonna equal to, oh my god, it's gonna equal to this. However, else if it's not, I could probably just write else, but I like to keep things real clear. So hidden, and okay, now let's double check. So the hidden, now we're looking at what? We're looking at pivots up. Pivot 1, this is pivot 1. Wait, hold on, which one is pivot 1? So pivot 1 is the latest one, the pivot 2 is the earlier one. In this case, pivot 1 is lower than pivot 2 on the main thingy. Pivot 1 is lower than pivot 2, okay? That's one thing, and here it's also the same. Now, secondary series though is actually growing. Let's check. Secondary series is growing. Well, now you can play around here really, because here you can see, so this is like smaller or equal to, and this one is growing, and this one is definitely smaller, and this one is equal. That's also a case, like even more hidden or whatever, I don't know. So that's done, okay, and I'm gonna do the same for the bottom one. See, pretty easy actually, right? So, but divergence exists, and if divergence exists, you don't need AI for this, guys, unless you want to spend even more time doing this stuff. If that does exist. So in this case, if my divergence type equals regular, we keep it that way. That's equal to this. However, else if it's not regular, but it's hidden, what do we want to do? Let's have a look. I want to delete this. So in the other case, this is growing, this is falling, okay? So this is growing and this is falling, and this is growing. And well, this is equal in this case. It looks like now we got every possible case. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, that stays the same. So let's look for some hidden ones. Or hidden. I'm just gonna keep the price because, okay, right, here we go. So this is what? Bearish. Okay, price is definitely falling here, but the indicator is growing. Price is falling, indicator growing. So price falling, indicator growing. Bearish, hidden divergence. Okay, now let's see. Okay, this here. Price is growing, indicator. Well, you see, this is the tricky ones, right? Because we're using values, obviously. You can see here, and if I go down here, it's actually falling. Indicator falling, price growing on the down pivots. Okay, and guys, I think that's it for the divergence expert. Okay, you guys, you have every possible divergence here, okay, that you can probably imagine. Okay, everything is included. Okay, pretty cool to use. Okay, you can stick into your strategies. You got your API here. Overall, pretty powerful tool. Thank you.